even though it's a blinded trial, Steve, you obviously see the data. And these are patients that have suffered for a considerable period of time. They've tried a number of treatments to deal with this neuropathic corneal pain with really no success.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Gary Jacob. He is the CEO of OKYO Pharma. And Gary, it's good to see you again. How are you?
Very good. It's excellent to speak with you today, Steve.
Yeah, exciting news out from the company. We'll talk about that in just a second, all based around your product, which is for corneal pain and corneal pain, rather. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about this. You've got a new name for something that we've talked about in the past.
Certainly, Steve. So first of all, we're very excited. We put out a release this morning, and this was around a drug that we've been developing to treat ocular disease. This drug originally was called OK101. We now have what's called a USAN generic name for the drug. It's called Urcosimod. That's a generic name. It's like when you have a drug that's, for example, ibuprofen's generic, and the branded name is Advil. So this is actually the name that we will carry through all the way through all of our clinical trials. Now, the exciting development, of course, is that we opened, Steve, in only in October, a 48-patient trial with Urcosimod to treat a devastating condition called neuropathic corneal pain. Now, this is a disease where people have nerve pain in their eye. It's kind of like a spinal cord injury, and you have people who have this terrible burning, stinging sensation. But in the eye, it's most highly innervated with nerves in anywhere in the body. So people who have this kind of nerve pain, it's called neuropathic corneal pain, suffer this kind of pain that is just unrelenting. And it's a very serious condition. And there is no FDA-approved drug to treat specifically neuropathic corneal pain. So we announced this trial in October, this paid trial. And the key about this trial was that we were doing a trial, Steve, that was what's called a double-masked, blinded, randomized, placebo-controlled trial. That's a lot of words, but what it really means, Steve, is that neither the patient nor the doctors know whether they're getting placebo or drug. So you have a blinded trial, and no one really knows. And that's the trial that we initiated with the intention of actually having top-line data by the end of the year. And of course, what we announced this morning is that we've closing based on our enthusiasm around the results that we're seeing in the blinded data.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, as you mentioned, it was supposed to go for some time, but now you're terminating that because that will give you the access to that data, and that's the key part of this is to get access to it.
Absolutely. So what we are encouraged by is, even though it's a blinded trial, Steve, you obviously see the data. And these are patients that have suffered for a considerable period of time. They've tried a number of treatments to deal with this neuropathic corneal pain with really no success. And these patients are these are patients that are really very dedicated to coming up with something that will relieve this kind of ongoing pain. So what we were excited about was, even though the trial is blinded, we were seeing enough data that we really like to accelerate this program by immediately moving to close and break the code. This would involve some time that you need in order to clean the data and ensure the data and lock the data, and then basically break the code and evaluate the data so that you know patients who are on placebo, patients who are on drug. The trial has three different arms. One is placebo, one is 0.05% Urcosimod, and the other is 0.1%. So we, at this point, really want to know what the results are based on what we're seeing in the blinded trial.
So obviously that data will come out. Then there's the next stage that you want to get to after that, which is to sort of do some more studies on a multi faceted level. So lots of clinical sites involved. Is that sort of the next step here?
Certainly. So the next step would be, once we have the data in hand and we really know what the results are telling us, we would then look to go to FDA and have what's called an end of phase 2 meeting. Now, this is a meeting with FDA where you negotiate with them registration trials, the design of the trials that are actually used, Steve, in what's called the NDA filing, the filing with the FDA for approval of a new drug. So that is something that obviously we'd be looking forward to doing. And that's why we wanted to stop now, because we didn't want to wait till the end of the year to actually have data and then have to do that when we felt we had sufficient data right now. And I also want to add one additional point, which is in this trial, a number of these patients who've been asking for compassionate use. Now, what is compassionate use? So this is also referred to as expanded access. This is a program that FDA had initiated, Steve, that allows patients to get access to a drug that is not yet approved. And this is for serious, really very difficult diseases where people are just desperate to even go on a drug that is still not FDA approved. And we've actually in this trial, a number of these patients that we have been dealing with were asking for compassionate use, and we're in the process of working on that with consent from FDA.
Wow, lots of stuff to come and lots of news as well. I'm very interested to see what happens is when this data is available. So we'll have you back for sure to talk about, Gary. Thanks very much for the update. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to our next conversation, okay?
I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Thank you, Steve. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Gary Jacob, the CEO of OKYO Pharma.